like 1,000 followers. Then he has his franchise concept, has 7 restaurants. He can scale like this. As soon as he opens the door, people are coming in because they know the brand.
Yeah.
And we got together with him. I'm like, okay, we want to get into this business, into the hospitality business. And he recommended actually Crumble Cookies because he said that at the time he was watching the TikTok, and he said it took me 20 years to get 1,000 followers or whatever, 10,000 followers. They have 5 million.
Yeah.
They just started. So they're doing something right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
Hi, it's John Hayes with the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, and my guest today, Natalya Hummer of Finitech Accounting and Advisors. But Natalya is also a Crumble Cookie franchisee. So this is a great combination, Natalya. And by the way, thank you for being a member of the Titus Center Advisory Board. I always appreciate it. It's not a requirement to support the Titus Center Advisory Board, but it's nice when people do, and it's nice to have you as a guest on my podcast. Welcome.
My pleasure, John.
So let's talk about this interesting combination. Well, let me start right away with, why don't more franchisees make more money?
All right. So let me maybe get a little bit of a background here. So I'm an accountant by my profession. I'm a CPA, and we do specialize in helping out franchise partners and franchise owners. We're an accounting advisory firm, and I'm a franchisee myself. So one of the things that we see that most commonly in people who fail to make money, it's like the same franchise, same volume of sales, but one franchisee is making money, whereas another one is not. Mm-hmm. And some of it comes obviously from experience. Like the more experienced you are, the more operationally in tune you are, the more you understand your numbers. And I'm a numbers girl. The more you understand your numbers and how making a decision, hire an additional person, bring an additional van, or get an additional storage facility, if you know how that will, what kind of impact it will have financially on your P&L, the more power to you, the more you will have more decisions that are based on numbers and not just the gut check. And one thing that I also noticed that most of the people who struggle are typically newer to this business. They come from W-2 jobs, corporate jobs, and it's an adjustment. It's a culture shock. Some of them, like, now you are responsible for making payroll. Yeah. Now you are responsible for having tough conversations with your employees and making tough decisions. And a lot of people it just takes time. It's not like they're not capable of that, but it just takes time to gain that polished, I guess, franchisee owner attitude and mentality.
So you mentioned something that I want to key in on right away, the numbers. Okay. You're a numbers girl. You know the numbers in your business.
Yes.
Crumble Cookie franchisee, it'd be very important to know those numbers. Years ago, a blue-collar fellow who became a franchisee, a multi-brand franchisee of the Dwyer Group, which today is known as Neighborly. So he was in service businesses, and he was a little shy about himself because he didn't have a great education, or so he said, and he didn't think of himself as a really great business operator. But he was the number one operator in this trade type franchise business. He had more trucks than anyone else, and he made more money than any of the other franchisees. And no one could understand it. And I was standing next to him. He was a fascinating guy, and I've written some about him years ago. And I was standing next to him at the company's annual conference called a reunion in Dwyer parlance. And everybody would come up to him and say, "How do you do it? How is it that you make so much money? You're the top franchisee year after year." And again, he was very shy, and he loved all the adulation that he would get, but it made him a little bit nervous. And after answering numerous people, he had a small group around him at one point when I was standing there, and he said, "Well, let me ask you some questions. How many phone calls do you get per day? And how many of your customers are returning customers? And several other simple questions. And each time the franchisee he was questioning said, well, I don't know for sure. And finally, he said to this small group, go home. There's nothing here for you in Las Vegas at this wonderful reunion we're going to have. There's nothing here for you. Go home. Get to know your numbers. And then we can have a conversation. And that has stayed with me for 25, 30 years, that franchisees don't know the numbers. That's why they don't make more money. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that metric. We're talking about metrics like we call them in the profession KPIs, key performance indicators, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every franchise concept have, depending on the industry, may have their own KPIs like revenue per labor versus revenue per square foot versus return. But the return customers, we do not exist without our customers, no matter what concept. And so the return customer rate, the satisfaction rate, there's a score in the industry that they use for customer satisfaction. I forgot the name of it. These are universal KPIs that we all have to be attuned in and know our numbers. You're absolutely right about the quality, whether it's a house you construct or a cookie you make, you have to stay behind the quality, and you have to have the personal connection with your customers. Not necessarily like I know every single customer, but you have certainly to know your regulars. That helps, and be part of the community, because franchises ultimately are small businesses, and we're all within our communities, even if it's multi-unit, multi-customer. And so knowing these metrics, especially if you have multiple stores, we own 3-4 stores. Well, at some point we had 4, and now we have 3, and we're comparing why is this, like with this, in our own little anecdotal history, where similar revenue, similar sales, but why is this store, they started at the beginning, and this store took off, the sales are consistently growing, whereas the other 2 stores were flat. And we found that it's the quality of care. It's how we take care of the customers. We really had a very good manager at that store who cared. It was her baby. Like, she treated it as if it's her store. Mm-hmm. So having the right people, I would say, yes, knowing the KPIs, but when you're a multi-unit, multi-owner, multi-concept franchisee, it's hard to be, in all of your stores or all of your businesses at the same time. So having the right culture and the right people.
Right.
I would say is probably the number one. And then even before the metrics, because they will take care of your metrics.
Yeah. So how do you know who to hire? Because franchisors and franchisees are not really wise about how to select people. One of the biggest issues today in franchising is labor shortage, getting the right person to handle your business when you can't be there. You can't be in all 3 of your Crumble cookies and run Finitech. Yeah. You can't possibly do that. Somebody's got to be doing that for you. Earlier today, I spoke to a franchisee who took a disc profile and happily discovered that her disc profile matched the profile of the top franchisees in her network of 85 franchisees. Generally, that's not the case. You find out that your disc profile, you're in the bottom 20. People who have that profile are in the bottom 20. You won't succeed until you change and you can't change your profile, but you can hire to improve your profile. And you've got to get the right people on the bus, and then you got to get them into the right seats, as someone once told us years ago. That's difficult to do. How do you know who makes a good general manager at a Crumble Cookie?
Well, Crumble Cookie is a franchise is very demanding. As you know, we change our menu every week. No other concept, I don't think, in the world changes their menu every week. So it's a different type of person. And the number one trait we're looking for, is the attitude, because we can teach the skills, but if there's no attitude of ownership and care, then nothing will help. Training will come a long way. And this is where corporate or small business owners worlds are exactly the same. It's not like you don't have this issue. The corporate world, that's where I come from before we started franchising with my husband. You have to be really thorough in your hiring process. So if you're just hiring a body, then this is what you get.
But people don't know. They, if you just said attitude. Is that what you said? Attitude, right?
Attitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to hire for attitude. Okay. Then you don't hire a D, and you don't hire an S, and probably not a C. You need to hire an I. Yeah. They have the right attitude. Well, you're going to hit and miss unless you know how to do that. In franchisees, it's a lot of hit and miss. This is a problem.
It is. And it's not like this only the I profile, because I took a disc myself, so I'm familiar with the letters, that they necessarily fail. Like if they surround themselves with the right like shift leads or area managers or whoever, you can't be a professional or expert in every single thing. So perhaps they're not good at math, but or like the numbers, but they're good with people. And you absolutely need both to be able to run your business. So you just hire a team. You really need a team that complements each other. And one of the things that we actually do, whether at Finatech, we do have psychological profiles, because attention to detail is not a wish list for us. It's a must. People expect their accountants to be 100% correct.
Right.
So we do also provide tests for attention to detail and knowing programs like Excel for accounting. But we also take psychological profiles, somebody who has pattern recognition, logical, and we do invite for hands-on and blue collar. We actually do trial shifts.
Yeah.
So
if only more franchisors would do that, they would select better franchisees. And if only they would teach their franchisees to do that, those franchisees could be more successful. After the people, as you mentioned, the numbers are important.
Yes.
But this is an area, do you find with your franchisee clients, they don't know their numbers?
Well, our clients know their numbers, because I want to say that we are different, because we bookkeeping is a given. What is bookkeeping? Bookkeeping is historical. It's what happened to your bank account. Yeah. Now, why that happened? Yeah. And how did that translate into your bottom line? This is where you bring the analysis in, and this is where we talk about, okay, so what happened the same time this last year? Why did your sales go up? Why did your sales go down? And why is your labor? Why is your food cost in terms of Crumble Cookies, the QSR concepts, but it also probably in construction, I would imagine anywhere you have to have brick and mortar operation, you have this kind of labor and materials, right? Yeah. And service, there's no materials, but there's still people. And yes, you absolutely have to know these numbers, and we go into dissecting that. And I want to bring a point here that a lot of new franchisees, there's just one mistake they make. They make consistently. If they didn't work in corporate world, close to the financial, or being close to financial statements and discussions around the numbers, that they think that their tax accountant will do a good enough job. Right. And after struggling, a tax accountant is like a specialist, right? Let's say you're building a kitchen, you will need to hire a general contractor who kind of knows about everything, and then can coordinate and know. You're not going to hire a plumber who is a highly specialized. You cannot create a kitchen without a plumber or electrician. Those are specialists, and tax accountants are specialists in taxes. Yeah. And now you are, again, keeping up with this, what's the word for it? Analogy. You would not hire a plumber to do your entire kitchen. You would hire a plumber to do part of your kitchen. So it's the same mistake. People think that, I have my accountant, and they think they're tax accountant, that they can run their books. Right. And this cannot be more. No, you have to have a team. Tax accountants are good about tax. You need to have somebody who knows about how to do accounting for businesses and create those trends and explain you the trends, explain you the KPIs, those key performance indicators that are relevant to your industry, to your business, and explain some terms. Like people who come to this business and they don't know what gross profit is, and they don't know what EBITDA is, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and why they need to know that. Yeah. So a lot of our work actually comes into educating the clients
Yeah.
first.
So
Yes.
that's one of the things that's fascinating to me about Finitech. You are a CPA, you're an accounting and an advisory agency, and you have a specialty in franchising, and you
Yes.
are a franchisee. This qualifies you in ways that so many others can't live up to what the possibilities that you have. And I always love another fascination about accountants. I love speaking to accountants. Historically, for 40 years since I've been in franchising, I would get invited occasionally, but I think the accountants got tired of hearing from me because by and large, accountants do not support franchising. They will tell their clients, oh, you could do this on your own. Why would you pay 10%, 8%? You're going to need that money. That's your profit. You're going to give that away. In fact, there was a case where an accountant told a client, it wasn't Crumbl, but it was Mrs. Fields. And the accountant said to his client, you make better cookies than Mrs. Fields. Why would you want to buy Mrs. Fields franchise? You're going to give away your profit. And what I explained to that accountant is, yes, your client can probably make a better cookie than Mrs. Fields. I doubt they could make a better cookie than Crumbl, but lots of calories in those cookies too. But could you make a better hamburger than McDonald's or a better pizza than Pizza Hut? Yeah, and you know, my family can because we're Italian, half of my family. So yeah, we can outcook the big chains. But that's not the point of business or franchising. Americans voted a long time ago. We don't care if it's a healthy burger or the best pizza or the best cookie. If it's convenient, we want it and we will pay for it. So your client can make a better cookie than Mrs. Fields. Your client just can't sell a cookie better than Mrs. Fields. And this is one of the problems that accountants get hung up on. They think that royalty becomes a problem rather than seeing it as an opportunity, as education, as giving a system to someone in exchange for their money. So how did you find franchising and recognize, all right, this isn't a bad thing, even though I'm a CPA?
Well, I have been in corporate world, so I have seen all kind of financial statements, and I know, and we went through, depending on the company I was with, bad and good times and anything in between. So one thing that I learned from the corporate world is that processes sometimes even trump having good people, not necessarily having good people, but people, processes. If you don't have a good process,
right,
no matter how brilliant your idea is,
right,
you cannot execute. And that's what franchises give us. They give us a blueprint. And we don't have the power to negotiate when you have 1,000 units, 2,000, 10,000 units. They have the power to negotiate with contractors on getting you a better deal on supplies, better deal on marketing, the whatever tech you need to support, right? But of course, that giving your example, she can have an excellent cookie, but with franchising, you're not buying the recipe, you're buying success.
yeah.
Okay. And that success is not guaranteed. That's another thing about franchise. It's not guaranteed. It still requires work.
Yeah.
But at least 90, well, I don't know, a huge lift. Maybe I can't really put the numbers on that. So scratch 90% that I said, but maybe a good 70% of that process, the process of elimination of what works and what doesn't work, and refining the systems. Yes, you're good at making cookies, but are you good at marketing?
Right.
Are you good at accounting?
Yeah.
Are you good at negotiating with vendors? Are you good at negotiating leases? So there's so much more that you need to be knowledgeable about, and no one single person can achieve that. So there's the rate of failure in restaurants. What is it, like, phenomenal, right? Within 2 years, 90% of them fail.
Within a year, 50% fail. Within
50%
years,
of them fail.
85% will fail.
Right. So statistics are on the side of franchises, and you want to tap into success. So we came into franchises because did we have the thought that I can create better? Well, first of all, I'm not a baker, so it didn't even come to me.
Right.
That accounting, maybe, because there are franchises for accounting, and this is where I'm doing it on my own because I do have a process, but I learned that process through decades of experience. working with others. So I have developed a process. I didn't just come up and invent it. Oh, I can do better bookkeeping than anybody else
Right.
can. Now I know, but I've earned that through decades of very niche, if you were to think about expertise. And even now, like I don't do taxes, for example, but I'm thinking, well, if I were to go to H&R Block, that would be like a constant.
Franchise.
Yeah, it's a franchise or liberty tax, right?
Yeah.
And that would give, or payroll,
Yeah.
that would give me something. It's just not something that I'm interested in. So, but that would be the easiest way for me to scale.
Yeah.
And for restaurants, how we got into that, actually, I'm going to tell you the story, is that we came across Crumble Cookies in 2019. At that point, they were only 2 years old. And we asked, so for those of you who are still thinking, like ask people who are in this business. Before going to these expo shows and getting sold, talk to people first. So we had that conversation. We had a friend who is a serial entrepreneur. He had 7 huge restaurants and he had restaurants on his own. And so we've been friends for decades. His own restaurants are okay, they're fine, but he only has 3 and it took him 20 years and maybe he has like 1,000 followers. Then he has his franchise concept, has 7 restaurants. He can scale like this. As soon as he opens the door, people are coming in because they know the brand.
Yeah.
And we got together with him. I'm like, okay, we want to get into this business, into the hospitality business. And he recommended actually Crumble Cookies because he said that at the time he was watching the TikTok and he said it took me 20 years to get 1,000 followers or whatever, 10,000 followers. They have 5 million.
Yeah.
And they just started. He said they're doing something right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So go back even further than that, Natalya. How did you discover franchising? What led you to say, okay, we're going to become a Crumble Cookie franchisee?
Before that, so that really was how we stumbled upon Crumbl. But before that, we started different because we asked what kind of business to get to, and he said franchising. That friend who we trust, who had an expertise, he's been a serial entrepreneur, he was successful. So we went to a friend who we trusted first, not to the expo.
Right.
Center with the trade shows.
Yeah.
And he said, I would go with franchise because he said you have blueprint and he has his own concept. And he said, it's just so hard. Can you make money? Yes. But can you scale? No. And then you have to, find a relative or, I don't know, friends who are good at marketing, who are good at social media, who are good at, I don't know, tech.
Right.
And he said, it's so just hard. You can't replicate yourself. You can't be an expert in everything. And so he said, just go franchising for your first run. Once you learn franchising, maybe.
Go out on your own.
Yeah, maybe. But he said, go, just take it easy on yourself and eliminate the risk of failure by 90%. Yeah.
So did you have
But before that, your question was before that. So actually my husband wanted to be in hospitality. It really is my husband. He's kind of like a serial entrepreneur, has been serial entrepreneur his life. And some point he decided he was in the hospitality business and he wanted to have a Chick-fil-A.
Wow.
And he applied, and you know how many people applied? 90,000 people apply.
Right.
He went all the way, like it was a year and a half of us going through the process, and he almost got it. Wow. He got like into the second to last round. He went to Atlanta to visit them. And I think it's kind of like ignited because he didn't get it. He said, okay, fine, we're getting something. And so he wanted the proven brand, and this is how we started our search, and so how we came across Crumble.
And you knew that a brand has value. People don't seem to understand that part of franchising's overall value is that it gives you a brand that people recognize. You might not think of products of certain brands, but people go to those brands because they're known, they're trusted.
Yeah.
You almost know what the food's going to taste like before you even pull into the parking lot. And that has value to a business.
Correct. Because in addition to convenience, there's consistency, right? People want to have the same good burger all the time, or even above average burger. I don't know. Yeah. But when they pull into your driveway, like they don't know what kind of burger you have, what kind of, how good is your kitchen? You know, do you Like they just don't know anything about you, and you have to earn that trust. With brand, that trust is instant,
Yeah.
right? The moment you open Crumble Cookies, you're going to have hundreds of people coming in and not question whether your cookies are good.
Yeah. And in fairness, you don't have to be a franchise in order to have brand value. In-N-Out Burger is not a franchise, but it has,
But now,
through word of mouth, it has done extremely well. People love that brand, not a franchise. Starbucks isn't a franchise primarily in the United States. Outside of the United States, it is. So you can build brands. Target isn't a franchise. Dillard's isn't a franchise. These are businesses that established outside of franchising their brands and have done an outstanding job of building business. And not that they don't struggle, particularly those in malls now. But
Yes.
that's a whole different story. You didn't have any problem with the idea that you'll have to give Crumbl 6 cents or whatever your royalty might be out of every dollar goes to Crumbl.
I'm totally fine with that, because what you get with franchises, yes, you have to pay royalty, but you get so much because of the economies of scales and processes. You don't make those very costly mistakes that typically happen if you are on your own.
Yeah.
And they negotiate, because of the power of the brand, they can negotiate deals with vendors for you. So if you were to go to, like, Crumble cookies are premium cookies. We use high-end ingredients, which are very, very expensive. If you were to, can you replicate a Crumble cookie? For sure, but it will cost you twice more. You know, you're not going to be able to sell even for $6. Everybody's complaining that they're expensive. They're expensive for a reason.
Right.
But you know how much a real vanilla costs? It's very expensive. So people, yes, you can't. It's hard. I mean, is it possible? For sure, if you get a deal from here and there, but can you do this at scale? Likely not. And so that's what franchising gives you. You are able to scale, and because there's another big factor. If the franchise is known, there is such a thing. They get rated with Small Business Administration, so they get on this list where they can approved for small SBA loans.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It's so much harder to get approved from a startup when nobody knows about your brand, nobody knows about you, but you are a brand new franchisee, and I don't know, pick Dunkin' Donuts, pick anything. And the banks know about Dunkin' Donuts because of the history of that. They know the statistics of failure, they know, and it's so much easier to get funded and scale. That's another side of it.
So as a CPA and as an accounting agency, why did you say, hey, let's specialize in franchising? Did you see the need, or did franchises contact you for some reason?
Well, it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
I never planned when I started on this journey.
Right.
I never planned to become a niche expert in franchise accounting.
Right.
It's just by the nature, because when we worked, my husband and I, when we opened our first store, it was 4.5 years ago. We actually had to go, because Crumbl requires you to operate and know how to run your stores. So we had to go and work in the stores. I actually learned how to bake and mix and do everything that you need to do to make a quality cookie. And a lot of stores at the time, because Crumbl was so new, nobody even knew on the East Coast who is Crumbl. So there was supply chain concerns. There was just, everything was new from that perspective. And our store was the very first store in the entire state of Pennsylvania. So a lot of neighboring future franchisees came to our stores to train. And this is how they learned that I'm also an accountant. I'm like, yes, I am making cookies, but this is not my primary expertise. I really can understand the books, and I understand the business, and I can do accounting and close your books for you. And Crumbl does require, that's another good thing, actually. Maybe we can talk about that later. How about the franchisor can help their franchisees be successful? So they learned that I do bookkeeping, and it's just kind of spread word of mouth. People started calling me because I started introducing KPIs, not just, what happened, but why. how many cookies per labor hour, how many revenue per labor hour, what are the trends, what is the minimum, what is our break even, how much do we need to sell to break even, and what happens if we do this and that. So that's just, really word of mouth. And because I am living it every day, we go through the same struggles as any other franchisee with people, with food costs, with shortages. And we opened during COVID, so that was super challenging the time.
Mhm.
And this is how it's just kind of evolved on its own.
So, on that topic of franchisors helping their
Yeah.
franchisees be more successful, if a
Mhm.
franchisor comes to you and says, I'd really like you to help me understand what are the 2 or 3 or however many things that you, as a CPA and as a
Mhm.
franchisee, know that if your
Mhm.
franchisees don't understand this, they're not going to succeed, maybe not at all, or at least not as well. What should franchisors be teaching franchisees?
So I heard on your previous podcast, you had somebody who said the good franchisors have their own stores first, or their first concept. So
Yeah,
they need to know and they understand the statistics.
yeah,
So a good franchisor is not really in the business of selling franchises. They're in the business of building a brand
yeah.
and building a business. And ideally, they already provide you with those statistics. If they come to me as a brand new franchisor, then I would dig in. I mean, certainly some statistics are um, specific to certain industries, but labor percentages is probably relevant to all of it, no matter what you are. And so, one of the things that um, like right now we're actually thinking, my husband and I acquiring another concept that is not making, it's not QSR, it's a different concept. And this is where I understood the channels of distributions, like where you sell and at what price can you sell additional. Like you already have your fixed costs, right? Let's just say, how much more can you sell in order not to raise your fixed costs? Because if you're selling more revenue, but you need to bring more people, typically that's how it works, more people, then those additional people can eat up all your profit.
Hmm.
And you're really going through a lot of busyness.
Yeah.
Um, and managing people is not easy, with call outs or whatever happened, and um, whatever drama it may happen at the workplace.
Yeah.
So you really have to deal with all of this to make sure that this employee can work with that employee. So all of that can be erased if you don't understand that the variable and fixed costs, for example, like, okay, like rent. Everybody understand rent. Okay, my rent is this. How much do I need to sell? Break
Right.
even is probably another one. How much do you need to sell to at least break even? And then you're not in the business. You didn't go into this business to break even. So how much more sale can you make? And probably what can you do as an operator, as an owner, to where's the best value? You mentioned something, put people on the seats. So the owner's seat is really the driver. They shouldn't be the one making cookies. They shouldn't be, can they do this? Yes. They shouldn't be the one, I don't know, stamping, whatever they are. Their job is to sell and build relationships. And I think that's one other thing. It's not KPI related, but this is somewhat related to success and making the best use of your time as an owner. Um, Probably how much time do you spend in the business versus on the business?
Yeah. The concept of Michael Gerber talking about if you're working in the business and you're baking the cookies and selling the cookies, you may
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that. But if
Yeah.
you were working on the business, you would
Mhm.
be doing a better job of marketing, perhaps bringing more
Yes.
customers, selling more cookies at the end of the day, and making profit. But a lot of franchisees don't know how to do that. A lot of franchisees buy concepts to work. They buy themselves a job. So they
Yes.
they already know that they're going to work in the business, even if they don't know what that concept is about. And again, that's the role of the franchisor. Should teach people, if you work in it instead of on it, you're not going to make as much money, and I, as the franchisor, won't make as much money. And I don't really want people like that in my franchise network. This doesn't happen that kind of thinking just doesn't happen well enough or often enough with franchisors. And they take lots of money from people to open a business, but those people sometimes are not going to be as successful as they need to be. How do you do it with, you run Finitech, so you can't be in 3 stores even every day. How often do you go to the stores?
I used to go every month. Now I go maybe once a quarter on an as-needed basis. In fact, 2, it used to be 3, but we had 1 store closed actually. So we did go through ups and downs, and one of the downs was where we had to close the store that didn't work out. We used to live there first for the first year. Finitech was just nascent, really. We had like 2, 3 clients, so I could do it like on my laptop in between. But now that we have 12 employees and again, hiring people, so hiring good people, this is really where it starts. And then another thing that I like to say, if you don't teach your people P&L, and if you don't teach them how you think about your P&L, don't put them in charge of your P&L.
Yeah.
Do not put people who you didn't train in charge of your P&L, whether that P&L is labor or food cost. You need to teach them first, right? Teach to fish instead of go fishing for them.
Yeah.
So that's how you do. So I have very competent people in Finitech. I have an accounting director. Can I do bank recs? And I don't know, payroll? Yes, I can, but I don't have to do this myself.
Yeah.
And my role in helping my husband actually run Crumble Cookies is more about making sure that we have a robust training system, that we have a good procedures and policies and procedures, and that people actually following up on them, like for example, cash deposits, and we monitor that. And if nothing happened, hold people accountable so they know Natalya is watching. Like I'm watching those KPIs. Yeah. I'm watching labor KPIs. We have weekly meetings, so I'm looking at agenda. If there's something urgent, I will join that weekly meeting. So as an owner, probably it evolves. A multi-unit, multi-concept owner probably involves you have to be present, and your people need to know that you're going to hold them accountable. Because once you train, it's just like, oh, I'm done. Train my people, I'm done. No, it's a never-ending process.
You got to inspect what you expect, or you're not going to get that. So it's your husband then. Is he in each of the stores on a regular basis?
Even he is not in the stores on a regular basis, but we have KPIs to tell us when the store is not doing right. Okay. So we're looking at KPIs daily. We are looking at the sold out rate, so it's very specific to QSR. We're looking at the quality, because they come in from customer feedback. Yeah. We're looking at how much in advance, because we try to never be out and not ever need to rush and mix at the last moment. So how many cookies we have ahead of time, and our goal is to always be, if you're not ahead for 2 days, we are behind. This is the saying we have internally. Okay. So these are the KPIs that he's watching, and he is on call. He is on meetings, and he is on call every day. And sometimes, yes, he goes like once a week, probably he goes to a store.
Okay. And so how about Crumbl? They do a good job of training and preparing someone who's never been in business, perhaps, to be a franchisee?
Crumbl is one of the toughest, I think, concepts because of the changing menu. Yeah. It's difficult because you have to project, and because we have this mandate to only sell fresh cookies, you have to be good in math. And Crumbl has come up with they use proprietary system. They come up with like a cookie predictive analytics of sorts, and so they tell you your game plan, how much you need to mix, how much they think you're going to sell. So yes, they help you with that. There's always room for improvement, and this is why I still have clients and Crumbl, even with all the technology that they have, we still have monthly reviews, and we still have probably not so much aha moments anymore, because my clients have been, once they're with us, they don't leave us. So they learned about the stats that they need to watch, and whatever is not, Crumbl is not given, because sometimes legally they cannot tell you certain things. Yeah. This is where you get your team, your lawyer, your lawyer and your accountant to educate you on the rest, no matter what concept.
Mm-hmm.
your franchisee of.
If someone comes to you and says, I want to open a Crumbl, I want to be a franchisee, do I have to own more than one unit?
No,
Okay.
no. In fact, I was surprised myself that to learn of the stats that more than 50% of Crumbl franchises only have 1 or 2 stores. And this is actually not that different from Chick-fil-A, where we learned that you typically only have one because the quality
Yes.
and you have to be in it. Like they expect you to get a job, but it's a good, well-paid job. And if you're in Chick-fil-A, because their volume is higher. But I also want to go back to your previous comment. You're buying yourself a job. So is that true for a lot of Crumbls if they have only one store? That's true. But if that's your choice, I don't see anything wrong with that. I just want to make sure that you still make more money than you made at corporate.
Yeah.
Don't do the work of a baker at, I don't know, whatever, $10 to $15 an hour. Just do a work of a general manager.
Exactly. And people don't understand that. And franchisors need to do a better job of educating. So on that, the questioning that I was doing, can I buy one Crumbl? Yes, I can. How much money do I need comfortably coming from a CPA? How much money will I need to acquire a Crumbl and operate it for maybe the first 30 days or 90 days of not making any money?
So are you talking about buying an existing franchise or opening from
scratch? I want to
scratch?
start a Crumbl. I want to open a Crumbl.
Oh, you want to open a Crumbl.
Yeah,
so that's a long journey.
Yeah.
That's a long journey. If you have $500,000 cash, then this is how much it will take to open it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what the other golden question, how much will I make, Natalya, if I invest $500,000 over a period of time? When will I get that money back? And how much will I make as a franchisee on an annual basis?
I'm going to tell you a favorite answer by all accountants and lawyers. It depends.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yes.
Can you give me a range?
I can give you a range,
I get my money back?
Well, that depends on you as an operator because one thing, so I can have different clients, and this comes back to you as an owner. Rent is one of the biggest things because if you have the same revenue, let's just say 1 million a year, but you pay 5,000 in rent and I pay 15, we're going to have a drastically different stuff, right? So rent is number one. Number two is, are you going to work in the business versus hire a general manager? Because, everybody's situation is different. So now you have to carry a salary of a general manager. And supposedly you're also actually supposed to pay yourself the same salary, but if you're an S corp, so that just into the tax question that gets in there. But a lot of other things like how good are you at training people and how good are you at having difficult conversations? Because after rent, labor is the number two thing, and that's the one that you can. And if you are not good at having difficult conversation, the first time somebody doesn't show up, you have to confront the person. The first time somebody cuts a corner, you have to confront a person. And, you can do it not in front of everybody. You can still pull them aside. Hey, can I talk to you? A lot of owners don't have that. I mean, it's not innate. Like we like to be nice to people. But in this business, I mean, you put your money, you probably mortgaged your house, you took a loan, a HELOC loan, whatever you took an SBA loan, everything is in the line, and you have to make payroll, and everybody is watching. If that person is always late, then I can be late. So when it comes to Crumbl, because it's specific, right? Because this is a pervasive problem that we have in retail, and I like when there's a high unemployment. That means people need their jobs and they will show up. So, but going back to, so I can have two different owners. One is the owner who is watching, who is good at math, who is talking to an accountant, not afraid to look at the books because I do have I'm afraid I don't want to look at my books. I don't want, well, if you don't want to look at your books, what do you expect? Yes. Right. So it all comes from the owner. You can make, because as you open Crumbl and you have grand opening, if you don't have saturated area, I have seen Crumbles who made all their money back in 6 months.
Wow. Terrific.
I have seen that happening. Can that happen again? Crumbl, I mean, I don't think that unless you have huge grand opening, there's not a Crumbl within 100 miles away. I don't know if this area still exists, but that's possible.
Yeah.
Still possible if you're a lucky one who has like this island and there's only one Crumbl.
Yeah.
Yes.
So finally, I want to, well, I don't even really want to ask. I just want to say how fortunate we are at the Titus Center that you provide an internship to one of my students who's studying franchising and at the same time is an accounting major. What a great blessing that is. And thank you for doing that. And very, very few universities in the world would be able to provide an opportunity like that to, in this case, a young man. So thank you for doing that.
You're most welcome. It was a pleasure working with Sam, and I'm looking for more internships to provide more internships.
Well, we have some great students coming your way.
Absolutely.
All right, Natalya. Well, thank you for this time. I really appreciate the opportunity to feature you on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.